So we started yesterday talking about author's purpose. Author's purpose is the reason why an author writes something, anything, whether it's a book, whether it's just a page, whether it's a short story, whatever, a poem, anything. Author's purpose is why they chose to write that. So we said the three main kinds that we look at are persuade, inform, or entertain. Who can remind me when we when we say that an author wrote something to persuade you? What does that mean? The author's trying to do what? What is the author trying to do if we say that they're persuading us, or they wrote it to persuade us? What does that mean? Who can tell me what does it mean when we say that an author is trying to persuade us? Jaylene?
It means um,
That's a very good example. Okay, go ahead, Christopher. That's a very, very good example. When you're trying to persuade someone, you're trying to change their mind. So, like an ad, they're trying to get you to buy whatever they're selling, right? What's an ad that you might see like on TV or on the computer, Jaylene? What's an ad that you might see? An ad for what? A toy. So whenever they come out with a new toy, they put an ad up and they'll put it in newspapers, they'll put it on the sides of buses, they'll put it on the big billboards, the ones that are on the sides of the road, they'll put it on TV, and they'll show you the toy so that way you know what it looks like. They try to change your mind so that you think you need to go out and buy it. Haley. But mhm. And you're right. Whenever they have anything like that, like a kit for robotics and stuff like that, they have ads for it that show you what you can do with it, different ideas. So that way you start thinking like, oh man, if I had that, I could do this or I could do that. They do it for everything, for food, for toys, for cleaning products, for clothes. Kylie. Yeah, whenever they have toys like that, they'll always show people doing that. That was a good description, like showing them using the controller to move it around and things like that. They'll show that in the commercial so that you see, oh, that's how you use it, that's how you play with it or whatever the case might be. And so it looks really cool, right? It looks better than a regular doll. You can see them doing more with it than normally you're able to. And again, we talked yesterday about how they'll do it with food, with like hamburgers. If you see an ad for McDonald's or Burger King or Whataburger, they always make the burgers look absolutely delicious and better than anything else. And they'll tell you about how their burger is better than the other person's burger, and it's got this and that on it. So you want to go out and buy that one, not the burger from somebody else. I'm sorry. But you're right. That's what the ads are supposed to do. You're supposed to watch that ad and you're going to go, "Oh, I'm so hungry now." There was one time I was sitting around my house with my friend, and an ad for Sonic came on, and they showed what were they selling? They were selling a hamburger and a milkshake. So instead of fries, you'd get a milkshake with your hamburger. And we watched the ad, and the ad had all these different pictures of this burger, and they had like the cheese melting on it, and the burger was nice and juicy, and they had, I think it was peach milkshakes, and they showed them blending the milkshake and how it was all creamy and cold, and the ad stopped. So the ad was over. And I looked at my friend, and he looked at me, and then we put on our shoes and we left the house to go get Sonic. We didn't even say anything. We got in the car, and right as we were driving away, my friend said, wait. We're going to Sonic, right? I tell him, yes, we're going to Sonic. This is exactly what we're doing right now. So sometimes ads can be very, very good at convincing you to do something. Food ads are very good at this. Toy ads are amazing at this. They show people playing with the toys, and you think, that is the coolest thing I have ever seen. That is better than any other toy I can think of. Even if you have toys that are similar. And they do it for video games all the time. I see the ads for things like, there's games like Madden and FIFA and all those games. And they're still football games, or they're still soccer games, or basketball games. But every year they try to show you how good the graphics are. And they always show you like the really good players in the NFL or the NBA. And they show you, wow, look, it's just like in real life. And they try to show you how much better the graphics are or how fun it's going to be. So they're trying to persuade you. What about inform? If something is to inform you, what are they trying to do? Jada, what was to inform you? What are they trying to do? A little bit louder. They're trying to give you information. What's something, Jada, that you could read that would try to give you information, like facts? What do you think? What is something that would want you to get facts and to learn? Brianna, think you can help her out? What is something that you might read? Okay, a book about what? Okay, about what? Like what's a book or a magazine that might give you facts and information? Okay, a book about George Washington. They'd want to give you facts and details about his life. That way you can learn about what he did. What about to entertain? Persuade is to change your mind. Inform is to give you facts and details. What is to entertain? Violet? Well, they want you to like the book, yes, but they want you to what? To make you laugh or cry, be sad, to feel something. They want you to feel some kind of emotion. Violet, what is something that is written to entertain you? Okay, Goosebumps. Goosebumps are written to entertain us. And in Goosebumps, they're not trying to get us to laugh or to cry. Well, sometimes to laugh, but they don't necessarily want us to feel sad. There might be some funny parts, but mostly they want us to feel scared, nervous, or jumpy. They want us to be looking around while we're reading the book and trying to see if we're hearing anything. They want us to be nervous. Okay. So, speaking of that, topic. Topic is a specific subject, idea, or issue that is the focus of the text. That means it's what that piece of writing is about. So Brianna gave us an example earlier of George Washington. If we're reading a book about George Washington, then our topic is George Washington. Now, Violet mentioned the Goosebumps books, and every Goosebumps book, or most Goosebumps books, are different. It's not the same story every time, right? There's some stories about a mummy, some stories about a doll, some stories about a vampire. I think there's one about a magician, right? And there's a couple about different ghosts and things like that. Mm-hmm. Dragons. So Goosebumps books have different topics for every book, or most of the books. There are some books that have the same topic. It's the same story, just like a part two. Werewolves. There's some about werewolves. Kylie. Oh, okay. See, so the haunted house books, they're about the haunted houses, but the Goosebumps. Which one did you pick? Which Goosebumps book did you get? You forgot. I think when when I was in school, I think my favorite Goosebumps book was, there were some good ones, but there was one. It was a one of the ones where you could choose your own. You had to make choices, and it was about like a mermaid or something. There was a mermaid in a lake. That one was pretty good. That one, and then I remember liking the one about they had a play at school. And there was a ghost that was in the play. Okay, something different. Author's message. The author's message is what the author wants you to learn from the story. So, a lot of times, after you finish reading a piece of writing, there are some times where the author wants you to learn something and it's very, very obvious. Like, again, Brianna brought up the idea of the book about George Washington. It's very obvious that the author wants you to learn about George Washington. So at the end of the book or at the end of the story, you should know more about George Washington. But there are some books where the author's message is kind of like hidden. You have to think about it. And usually you have to think about what happened in the story. So let's take an example from our read aloud book today. Kenny was sitting with his friend on the bus, and someone made fun of his friend, and Kenny laughed. He laughed at the joke. And we said, how did his friend feel afterward? After Kenny laughed at the joke that someone made about him, how did his friend feel? I see you, Bella, doing this. You're right. He felt really bad, right? Very, very sad about what had happened. But at the end of our chapter, his friend came back. When his friend came back, what did Kenny do? What was the first thing that Kenny told his friend when he came back after he felt sad that Kenny had laughed at the joke about it? Chase, let's make sure we're focused, buddy. What was the first thing that Kenny said? His friend showed up at his door. Kenny opened it. He saw him there. And then he did what? What did he do when he saw his friend standing there outside of his door? Alexa? He did a little bit afterwards, but the first thing he said was what? He said, I'm so sorry. He apologized. He apologized to him, and then afterwards, his friend told him, no, it's okay. It's no big deal. We can play. So, what do you think the author's trying to show us there? Kenny laughed at his friend. His friend didn't talk to him for a little bit, right? Didn't hang out with him, didn't eat lunch with him, didn't go over to his house. Brianna, what do you think the author's trying to show us there? Okay, and what do you think the lesson was?
Not be.
Okay, and if the author is showing us that Kenny needs to learn a lesson, they're trying to show us too. Now, the author doesn't know all of us, so the author isn't sure that any of us are rude people. But even if you're not rude, could you still learn that lesson? Yeah, good. The next one is author's craft. Author's craft, some people have problems with it. It's not very complicated. Author's craft is just how does the author write? The choices that the author makes as far as, well, how should I describe this thing? How should I talk about it? What kind of adjectives should I use? Or sometimes even the way that they put things in order. It could also be if they put pictures into their writing. Why did they choose those pictures? Why do they want us to see those things? And the last thing we're going to talk about for author's purpose is the audience. The audience is the intended target group for a message. So think about it like if you go to the movie theaters. You go to the movie theaters, the audience is everyone that's sitting there watching the movie, right? For a book, you can't see everyone sitting there listening to the book or reading the book because they buy it and they go to their house and you can't see everyone. But when the author is writing, the author thinks about who do I want to read this? If they want people who are in college to read something, then they can use bigger, more complicated words and they can make the book a lot more focused on the information. If they want, let's say, kindergartners to read their book, they can't put a book full of big, complicated words for a kindergartner, could they? The kindergartner wouldn't be able to read that. So they could pick up the book and they'd go, I don't know what this says. And if they showed them lots of facts and lots of charts and maps, the kindergartner might not know what's going on. So when the author is writing their book, yeah, we might be able to understand it. But for people in kindergarten that are just barely learning how to read, they wouldn't do very well with that, right? And the same thing is true even for the book that we're reading. This book, so far there hasn't been a single picture in it. The reason why they put a lot of pictures in books for younger kids is because the pictures help them to understand what's happening. So when they're reading, even if the words are a little confusing, they can always look at the pictures and go, oh, okay, that's what's going on. But you'll notice that as you get older, a lot of times books don't have as many pictures. Sometimes they do, like the book we read before, this fourth grade rats, they had a couple pictures in it. But a lot of times the pictures are there to help you out. So pictures showing you what's happening in the story doesn't have, or the pictures that show us what's happening in the story doesn't happen as much the older you get. The younger you are, they'll include more pictures so that way even if a word confuses you, you can figure out what's happening. We'll talk more about author's purpose during the week, but I wanted to make sure we talk about these phrases here, or these words that they use, because sometimes we see these words and we don't always understand what they mean.